Okay, so we're just reviewing a quick blitz game I played yesterday. I'm very low rated in blitz. I think I'm now like 250. My opponent was even lower, so to play 80% is pretty is pretty unheard of for me. And I played as a 600. So let's just get into it. It's only 15 moves, so nice and short. They made it quite easy for me. Okay, so let's get into it. So I'm playing black. Obviously, my opponent comes out with King's Pawn, very common and what you see a lot. I go with the more cautious just because I don't know if that next move is going to be Queen here and all that stuff you see sometimes. So yeah, I'm always cautious with low rated players. They develop their knight, which is very theory. I develop my knight. They develop their bishop. So the downside to the King's Indian is sometimes people will be willing to sacrifice a bishop here, so they'll send their bishop in here, and then obviously you're forced to take back with the king, and you then can't castle, so it ruins your opening plan. I haven't had it many times, but it does happen. So some people like who see you're playing a King's Indian, which is quite hard to play against, they will just go, oh fuck it, I'll sack a bishop. So yeah, I push a pawn there, ready to obviously develop here. The engine is a bit like, what you doing? But that's just the King's Indian opening. Opponent develops pawn. Engine is obviously, it's a good move. I develop my bishop ready to castle. I've now got this space here. My opponent castles nice and early, which is great. So what I tend to do when my opponent castles early is I try and retain my knights and send them over into that direction. If not, if I end up having to trade in a knight, what I'll do is I will place a bishop on the long diagonal here, the fianchetto is called, and try and get checkmate on that square there. So you've got a couple of options really, but the easier one is to try and do it with knights, but they're not as sneaky. Like, it's really obvious. Obviously, if you've got a knight here and your queen's there, it's very obvious what you're trying to do. But if you've got a sneaky bishop all the way over here, sometimes people don't quite notice what you're doing. So anyway, so I castle. Opponent develops a knight, all very standard stuff. I develop obviously into this direction, ready to attack. Opponent develops knight, so I'm wondering, are they going to want to trade? If so, that's fine. They do not. So I develop my knight, obviously leaving it open to trade here if they wish, which they accepted. So yeah, equal trade, equal material, no problem at all. My opponent retreats the knight. Why do they do that? Okay, so they obviously didn't want to trade in that one and for a bishop. So they retreated. I develop my pawns so that I open the diagonal there ready for my queen to go out, because typically I try and checkmate with either a bishop and a queen or a knight and a queen. Opponent develops. Again, I'm thinking, okay, are we going to trade? I develop mine ready to sort of line up a checkmate. Yep, develops pawn, probably to get the bishop out. So I push the knight away, or try to. Opponent captures. I take back. Engine's a bit like, what you doing? Okay, so yeah, so the engine, obviously the opponent captures my pawn. The engine is now like, what on earth are you doing? Reason being, that is now a free knight, and if they then don't move out of the way, it's also a free rook. So it's 8 points up for grabs if they don't move the rook. They did move the rook though, so I took the free knight. They moved the rook. I bring my queen here. Obviously, I have this diagonal here, and I have this here. So H2 is checkmate. My opponent does not see this and does something else that attacks my rook. So bosh, checkmate. So yeah, very short, very easy, and yeah, don't really know what else to say.